Kia ora, and welcome to another episode of the podcast. I'm sitting here with my friend
Tiana Wereta,
and we hope that you enjoy this episode. Righty. So as small as the circle of Wellington is, like, it's weird, it's a big place, but then like the circles in it, it's like 1 degree removed from each other, and you can talk to someone who knows someone else. But I find it weird that growing up, even though you're the partner of a friend, I still never met you.
Yeah, only in passing.
I think so. It was one of those things. Do you know when you like have those friends and like your guy friends, and they'd be with their partner or maybe their partner, and you don't know, but they like will have a conversation with you, and you just stand there. I think you stood there and looked at us for a long time, but we didn't really know who you were.
I can't remember where it was. I feel like it was close by to here.
Yeah.
And we were walking past, and I remember he goes, "Oh, there's Troy," and I was like, "I don't know who this guy is," and so I was awkwardly standing there. I think we were very early in going out too.
Ah, right. Yeah,
so
no.
Hence the awkward stare.
Like all the time. No, but it's been cool because like when you get to know each other, and I think maturity as well, when you start to like understand what more people are about, you're like, oh, okay, she wasn't shy, she wasn't, it was just that we didn't have anything in common to talk about at that point. Yeah. Oh, very fair. So are you like Lyle Bay through and through, or?
No, actually I grew up on the other side of town. So I mean, always been in Wellington, but I pretty much grew up in Wilton.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
nice.
so we came from opposite ends of town. I don't know how we ended up.
Yeah. Did you go to school over there?
Yeah. Oh, I went to Thornton School.
To Thornton School. Okay. Yeah. Right, so that's pretty, is that bougie? Is bougie Thornton-ish kind of?
Yeah, it is kind of bougie. I mean, I have been told that that's the rich end of town, but I don't remember it being there.
Yeah. All right, you can see it as a rich place, but sometimes the world that you lived in wasn't the rich world.
Yeah. Well, I was just like any other family. I just so happened to be on the other side of town.
Yeah, nice. We were like that as well, actually. We lived in, so like being in Lyle Bay, but also we lived in Karori.
Oh, yeah.
And like everyone who's from Karori that we know was like rich as, but we were like at the other end.
Yeah,
where like,
the end of Karori. Yeah. That was known as the poor end of Karori.
Exactly. Yeah, there we go. But because you're from this one area, you're just like, and when people are like, oh, you guys are rich, I'll be like, yeah.
And people from Karori rep Karori through and through. They're like, oh, Karori hard. Yeah.
100%. Oh, man, it's so cool. So, like, with everything and just being from here and being a Wellingtonian local, have you been able to, like, explore much of, like, the rest of New Zealand or maybe the rest of the world at all?
A little bit the rest of the world, but not much, you know. I've been to New York, I've been to Thailand, I mean, I've been to Rarotonga. Yeah. I mean, but that doesn't really count as a holiday destination. That's just like going home. Yeah. But otherwise, not really. I mean, my stepdad's family is Thai, so when I went to Thailand, I was going to see them and meet them. I was 12, and then New York was within the last couple of years before COVID came.
Ah, interesting. And what was the draw card to going to New York?
Well, actually, I really wanted to go to Hawaii.
Wow, damn.
I wanted to go to the States. I wanted to go to Hawaii.
Yeah.
It was warm, but it was cheaper to go to New York, and we had a friend there.
Oh, that's cool.
So he kind of acted as I'll just take you around. Yeah. And that was perfect.
Yeah, and with your 2 different ages of like traveling, so you said you were quite young when you went to Thailand, and then just like thinking about where you are in your stages, do you think growing and actually being able to travel when you're older was a bit cooler?
Oh, way cooler.
Yeah.
Way cooler. Like, I mean, you have the flexibility to do whatever you want.
Yeah.
You know, but also being a kid and being able to take on all of that difference in culture. Yeah. You know, being a Kiwi kid who is multicultural. Yeah. And then going over there and not being from there, but also being considered part Thai. Yeah. Was like crazy because I'm not. Yeah. But I just claim it all the time.
Right. No, that's cool.
Yeah.
What's the so when you talk about multicultural, now to a lot of people it means different things. Some people just take it as like the facet of these like bloods make me. Yep. But then some people take it as in like I've studied these different cultures and I feel part of those cultures. Where like when you consider yourself and using that word, what's like more resonant for you?
I take it from the perspective of diversity.
Yeah.
And although really I'm just a Kiwi Māori who's Kukala Māori, and then by blood I'm also a little bit Scottish. I consider myself multicultural, but I think being from that diverse background has allowed me to, connect a lot better
sure.
others.
Yeah.
So, for example, my stepdad is Thai, his family's Thai, and I connect really heavily with them on a cultural perspective.
Yeah.
And I find that the same way with like just about any other culture. I mean, I know that I don't understand and I don't know anything.
Yeah.
But I'll be the first to say, look, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I'm willing to learn.
Yeah.
So I take it probably from a study perspective, but not in a official study perspective, just more in a, hey, I'm just willing to, I just want to know what it's like to be in your shoes.
That's really cool. I think the empathy side of things, or like being able to step back and be like, I have no idea, like makes people more willing to open up to you.
That's right.
Like, I don't know if you get that, or like when you're just talking to different people, I think we get it from a young age where you see people and there's always like the know-it-all person who's always talking and you never want to talk to them because you're like, what if they think I'm stupid?
Yeah, absolutely. Also, how is somebody else going to tell you about your own culture?
Yeah.
You know, that's really, the thought of that is offensive to me. So for me to come in and be like, hey, I'm not Thai, but I know all of this stuff and you don't know, but you're Thai, it's just like, doesn't make sense.
100%.
You know?
Yeah. I think it's like a lot of the things that you go into, like any skill that you're trying to learn, like if you go in trying to tell someone or trying to like look like you know a lot, you miss out on so many opportunities to actually like gain some really rich experiences.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because like for yours, I mean, all the different movement stuff you'll do, which we'll get into in a little bit, but like if you went in and you're just like, oh yeah, I think that we could have done this, and then the person who's like actually the expert would just be like, all right, go there.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, that counts for lots of things like, I don't know, like nutrition, like your job, training as well. You have to be coachable in all aspects of your life, and you just have to have a slice of humble pie. Even if you know something, it doesn't mean that you have to talk about it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And like if someone does tell a story and you know the story, like you don't always have to jump in and be like, oh yeah, and then like let them finish it, because they might give you an alternate ending that you've never heard before.
That's right. I totally agree with that.
Yeah, because I think that was just like someone else's perspective on it, and you'll just be like, oh, I never thought about it like that. But if you're always just like, no, then you're like, well, you just missed out. But anyway, so I'm just jumping in too much here. But so schooling and everything, so you have this perspective of yourself now, and this is like maybe 10 years removed from school. But when you're going through school, like just classic mentality that you go there, you do what you have to do, to get through, because you think there's these pathways that people have, and you think at the time high school's the only thing that matters. And so like, where were you? So in terms of who you are as a person now, and then thinking about yourself as that teenager going through high school, where are like the biggest development points that you see in yourself?
Oh, okay. So there's a lot, eh?
Yeah, let's go.
So the person that I was when I was a teenager to the person that I am now, way different.
Yeah.
For lots of reasons, of course. I mean, we're ugly when we're teenagers. Let's just be honest.
Couple haircuts that you're like, what is that?
And I don't mean physically ugly. I mean like all of it ugly. So when I was a teenager, or even when it started pretty much when I was an intermediate, I was like, I turned into a naughty kid.
Right.
And I'm not really sure what the trigger was, but I have a strong sense of justice.
Right.
So as a kid, if I saw things that I thought was unjust, I would start to say something about it. I come from a family with sharp mouths. So I was a sharp-mouthed kid.
Yeah.
So when I came into, and then, other sorts of things like people bullying and all of that kind of stuff when you're younger, stuff that my mum doesn't even know. I just worked myself into a persona of a hard bitch, essentially, when I got into, the first year of college. So when I got there, I was different from who I was 2 years before, and I just sort of took on a strong composure of, okay, well, nobody can mess with me. Not even people that are trying to teach me. I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to, nothing. Right. So that's where that really started for me, and that carried on through until I turned about 16. Wow. So I'm not sure why, but it doesn't mean that I bullied anybody. It didn't mean that I fought anybody. I didn't have to, but I took on a scary personality, right? So that people wouldn't bully me. Okay. So the teachers wouldn't try to be mean to me. Yeah. Which worked until I got to my older ages, and then that's when I started going to the DP's office all the time. Right. And that's when I started really arguing with the teachers. Okay. And wagging and not being a good student and trying to find alternate ways. I just realised that, as I was getting older, I'm a Māori student and people don't care about me.
Yeah.
I took on that. That's the role that I took.
Yeah.
Okay, if you don't care about me, I'm out.
Yeah.
Which is not good, because I have a good pedigree, actually, in terms of family and education, and my parents are really good, and all of them.
Yeah.
And we've got good career paths and all of that kind of stuff. So I don't know where the flip came from.
Right.
I'm just going to call it hormones.
Okay, which is very fair. Yeah, like looking at the ages and things happen.
Yeah.
But I was just wondering, going through that and having that persona, because it's really easy to like put that up so that you kind of protect yourself.
Yeah.
Like it was a defense mechanism that pretty much everyone in the animal kingdom does.
Yep.
Like they'll put on something bigger than they actually are so that no one tries to mess with them. So they're like, oh, cool, I'm safe. But in that, at the same time, you also push away opportunities for people to help you.
That's right.
So, like, did you find as you kind of made that switch and you started feeling like, okay, you don't want to help me, or like so you kind of pushed away the people that would have helped you, and then you get to a point where you have to physically retract because you're feeling like they don't want to help you anyway.
Yeah.
Did you start to feel isolated at all?
Yeah. Totally. So, so my friends who were very much like me, but were good students.
Yeah.
I could see them pulling away academically,
Yeah.
and they were getting along really well with their teachers. The teachers wanted to help them. I felt like my support system, aside from my own family, was shrinking. That I had very few teachers that actually wanted to help me.
Right.
And one of those ladies, I think she still works there actually, her name's Miss Ellen. Is she still there? Woohoo. She really supported me to put me into something so I could so I went into Gateway.
Yeah.
So she moved my efforts that way.
Right.
So school wasn't working.
Yeah.
So okay, let's put your energy towards something that can help you for your future, which is, let's put you into a job.
Yeah.
You see what it's like in the real world, and then that might help you to build up other skills so that you can be, employable.
Yeah, because the Gateway thing in New Zealand is where they kind of, you can get credits that you would in a classroom, but you get workplace experience, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So you do like a certificate in like customer service.
Yeah.
And it's real simple. They teach you how to manage money and all of that kind of stuff. And then you get the certificate through Welltech, I think. And then, credits. Yeah. And also you get put into work experience, and then it's up to the job whether or not they want to hire you.
Oh, cool.
And I got hired.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Now, I think it's cool to hear that, and then I think when we get to where you are now, just for people, because I had a guy on the podcast who, like, he just finished his PhD, he didn't finish school, and he went into alternative education. Now, I remember at school, actually, going to Gateway was like, or being put in, like, the Gateway pathway, it was like, oh, that's only for the drop kicks. Yeah. And it was really bad that was the mentality that we had, and we didn't want to do it because we were like, you're not going to get job, and like, we actually thought it was the most undesirable place to be. But work experience, now that we're seeing it, is kind of like the ticket to everything, because you need experience. It's like, how do I get experience? Oh, you need experience. You need a job experience. And you're like, but I can't get a job experience because I don't have experience. And it's just this like vicious cycle of not actually being able to get anywhere.
That's right.
So just for the young people listening, it's not a bad thing.
No, and it's not a bum subject.
Yes.
Okay? Like, don't, even I was growing up knowing that was what it was, that it was a bum subject, but it's not a bum subject. In fact, I became more independent as a result of going into Gateway. If I remained at school, I would have just not shown up to school, because I was already into the snowball effect of, well, I didn't go yesterday, so I'm not going to go today, and then I'm probably not going to go tomorrow, and then suddenly I was only coming into school for a couple of hours every other day. Yeah. I had the worst truancy in the school.
Wait, that's your record?
Yeah.
Like, that's not you just saying, it was pretty bad.
No, I had the worst. So we had a newsletter that used to go out to all of the form classes. Yeah. And during form class, they would read, all of the stuff. And then there was a block in there that was about truancy and detentions. My name had the most detentions against it. I had the worst truancy. And every time I was at form class, they would read that out.
Holy moly.
And so the whole school knew that I had the most detentions and the worst truancy.
Right. Now let's think about, so if you were to go back and then just like say It had nothing to do with your academic abilities.
No. I was smart. Yeah. I was a smart kid. I just got lazy because I stopped going.
Right.
And I was more focused on other things. I just wanted to play sports.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What was your sport?
Oh, I played just about everything.
Yeah.
So I did basketball. I did netball.
Yeah.
Wakaama. There was a point where I was going to play soccer, but I decided not to. Touch rugby.
Yeah.
When the tackle rugby started coming into the college, I started to play that, but that was coming in my later years.
Yeah.
So I missed out. That's probably it.
Yeah.
That's probably it.
And
I
do you
was always playing something.
If you had, say, someone else, or say you had more mentors or people along the way who kind of said you could focus your abilities into these sorts of things, like you couldn't do sport, but also as a part of that you do your schooling and all that sort of stuff, things would have come out different.
Yeah, definitely, but there wasn't any requirements for that,
Right.
Sports, unless you were in top tier,
it
didn't really matter. You were just playing a sport. It was just for fun. It's for extracurricular,
for sure. And then in terms of your cultural identity and all that sort of stuff, besides being the person who just kind of statistically is the person who will be left out most times or isn't really cared about, what other things did you think you did or you held, or in terms of your cultural identity, how's that developed over time? Just your ability to be I am these things and I'm not embarrassed of it, or not blaming too many of your characteristics on those things. Because I know that when I was younger and being brown and going to school, I was anytime something bad would happen, I just knew it had a little bit to do with me, but mostly to do with what I looked like, my appearance. And
in terms of school generally, I knew that I had a walking sign above me.
Yes,
It was this is one of the Māori kids. We used to hang out together.
Right.
All the time. There's this place in the Māori unit called the Tīpata, which just means teapot.
Yep.
And we'd go in there and we'd spend all of our time together, form classes, lunchtimes, any other breaks, after school sometimes. The Tīpata was the space for Māori kids.
Yep.
Now, we didn't all go to the same classes all the time. We all had different interests. But I found that, especially if I was going into science classes or maths or English, it was really obvious who were the brown kids.
Yeah.
And it was me and a few other Polynesians. And if there was a problem, we would be the first people to be questioned about it. But then, to be fair, at the time, because of the mentality that I was in and the persona that I had taken on, I was the causer.
Yeah, right.
I was the catalyst.
Yeah.
So if I didn't agree with something, I was standing up and then I was pointing at the teacher and going, "Hey, no, that wasn't me.
Yeah.
You need to piss off."
Yeah.
Essentially, or take your words back or eat them.
Right.
Yeah. So even though yes, I was one of the kids that people knew were part of the brown crowd, I was also a causer of problems.
Right.
And I know that too.
Yeah. See, it's interesting because half the time you do want to just say, no, that's systemic and that's a problem. But then at the same time, a lot of the aggravations come because of the systemic nature of things. So it just becomes a cycle where the blame is on you, then it gets to a point where you react because of how everything's going, and then the blame's back on you, but you actually did it, and you're like, I can't win. There's no way out of this.
That's actually it. Yeah. So that's why I always found myself in the DP's office.
Right.
Because we would be blamed, I wouldn't agree, I would fight, and then then because I'm the causer, I end up getting in trouble for it, and then I'm like, I can't even defend myself. So I'd get into a victim thing, my life is so awful. Yeah. Oh no, the teachers hate me. I'm a brown kid.
100%. Yeah. No, it's a difficult thing, and I think the older we get, we can laugh at it, but at the same time, we can see strands of just how it still continues to play out.
Oh, it still happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well beyond me.
Yeah, for sure.
And worse.
Absolutely. And then just thinking. So from there and then moving on, did you have any aspirations before or thinking about, university or anything beyond?
Yeah.
To college?
I had big dreams about going to university. It was always in my plan.
Yeah.
I was always going to go in and do business studies. because, actually I thought I was going to do marketing.
Right.
Marketing was the go. It was exciting, it was fun, and that's what I really wanted to do. I didn't get university entrance. So, and the reason why I didn't get university entrance is because of my level of truancy, and I changed all of my subjects because I didn't like them, and then I ended up in Gateway.
Right.
So my way of getting into university, I had to do a undergrad course.
Right.
It was the tohu Māoritanga at Vic Uni.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like it was the bridging to allow me to go into proper university subjects.
Yeah.
Best decision ever.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like it's almost like a scholarship.
Okay.
You have to be selected to go into it. You're interviewed and everything. You do like a test, and then when you get in there, it's almost like a course that sends you into actual subjects.
Yeah.
I can't even remember. I haven't been to university so long. I don't even know what it's called anymore. But you go into actual things, lectures.
Yeah.
And then you actually have other classes which teach you how to study.
Right.
So they really develop you to become a student.
Yeah.
It's a really good opportunity for people who aren't sure if studying is their thing.
Yeah, that's cool. I think all students should do that.
Yeah.
Even if you're ready to go in, because like we all just get thrown into the deep end,
and
we don't even know how to study.
Exactly. Yeah. Like I learnt some real key foundational things that I didn't even know were important. And when I got into my first year of my degree, I was like, thank God I did that, because I actually know how important tutorials are now.
Yeah.
Like I know what the rules are, and I actually know where to go if 100%. I need support. Yeah. Because I get it. I had so many friends who didn't know what to do.
Yeah, I remember reading my first like timetable that I got, and like we're meant to be smart 18-year-olds, and I'm like, What? Like, what? I didn't know the difference between a lecture, a lab, a tutorial. Yeah. It took me like one whole semester to be like, okay, so you can't resubmit this. Your final grade is like an overall grade. If you get an A in this, it doesn't mean you get an A in the paper. Like, there's just so many different things that you learn. You're like, wait, terms? Okay, so I have to do... I was like, oh my gosh, half of this, I'm actually just learning uni. I'm not actually learning my course. Yeah. So that sounds awesome.
Yeah.
How many people would have been on that scholarship when you went in?
Probably like, I'm going to say like 20. Right. 20 of us. And, you know, the achievement rate, or not the achievement, the graduation rate of it is pretty low. Right. Lots of people pull out. And the year that I was in it was the defining year of it. They were deciding whether or not they were going to pull it or not. So I think there was actually like 22, 23 of us. Out of that many, about 14 of us graduated that year, because it's only a year long. Right. And you go right through to summer. Yeah. You do summer school as well. And then you graduate the next year. And so that was a really good achievement year for that diploma. And then after that, they've kept it. So I believe it's still going. Fantastic. Yeah. Best thing ever. Yeah, that's awesome to hear. And I'm like just thinking about the friends you would have made in that group, because I'm guessing you would have spent quite a bit of time with those people. Yeah. So you pretty much do all of the same classes. Yeah. Or there were some core classes that you did all the same, and then you could pick maybe one or two that you wanted to. Also, there's like, it's a Māori course, right? So everything is about te reo Māori, te kao Māori, all of that sort of stuff. So different levels in terms of reo competency, you'd be in a higher class. Right. You know, so there are some differences. But yeah, like great people. Yeah. Some people that I haven't seen in a really long time. Yeah. Everybody went off to do different things. Not everybody came back to study again. Yep. A lot of people just wanted to do it and then go. Yep. Which is cool. That's what it's for. Absolutely. You know, for you to figure out whether or not you like it or not, and to still have a diploma is something. Yeah. It's better than nothing. Absolutely. But from what I know, a lot of them ended up going off and having kids and you know, getting a different job and all that kind of stuff. And I came back and studied. Yeah, cool. Like 4 of us came back and studied. That's really cool. I know that, so a lot of the stuff that I do for the uni now, and like a lot of the work that I do, a lot of it looks at retention, and like you just said something really, which just triggered something in my head, and I'm like, gosh, like retention isn't the be all end all. Like just because someone doesn't go back to uni doesn't mean they're not succeeding elsewhere in life. Yeah, like we just look at the statistic as like, no, we're losing all these people, but I'm like, wow, that's because it's business oriented. It's not to do with what's best for that person. So thank you for that light bulb. Right. So you went on, you did that course, and you go into studying. You said you wanted to do some sort of marketing. Is that what you ended up doing? No. I ended up going into human resources, and I still did business management. So I did a double major, I think that's what you call it. I did that, and I succeeded. I got all my bits and pieces, and then tried to find my way into an HR job. right after that.
Right.
Yeah. I eventually got one.
Okay.
And then I realised that human resources isn't for me. I mean, anybody who goes into HR knows that HR isn't all that fun. The human side of business is really hard to manage and navigate for lots of reasons. It's not just because you have to do contracts all day.
Yep.
You're dealing with the employment relations, you're dealing with the disciplinary side and the paperwork side, and some people are just awful.
Absolutely, yeah. I was going to say the human side of human resources is the hard part.
Yeah, the paperwork's the easy part.
The resource don't talk back, but the humans, they all think they like have the rules sorted, and also being the types of people we are, I don't know, like you seem to have a strong understanding of different people and different backgrounds and all that. So like it's difficult to have hard conversations a lot of the time because like you are confrontational. You have to be confrontational at times. Yep. I'm just like, I'd rather not.
But also you have to be empathetic. Yeah. And you have to show sympathy, but not in a condescending kind of way. And everybody reacts differently. You know, I'd come across some really difficult situations that I had to support some people through, and I was like, man, I don't even, as a person, I'm like, wow, this is really hurting me that we have to discipline this guy about something that's going on in his life that could actually end his life. For sure. You know, the stress of it could really push him sideways. Yeah. But we have to look at it from the business perspective. Yeah. And that's really hard.
And how old were you at that time?
I think I was like 23.
Gosh.
I was so young. Yeah. Now thinking about it now, because I know I'm only 29, but thinking about it now, I'm like, damn. I didn't have much worldly experience myself. Yeah. And to be in there and supporting these people much older than my senior. Yeah. It must have looked weird. Yeah. It must have been so hard for them to look at me come in with a smiley face and be like, okay, well, this chick's going to do the disciplinary today. Yeah. I don't know.
Because that's what I always think about. Like when young people go into a workforce with people who have been probably employed like decades, and then you're this person who has to put in like disciplinary action or like people are taking cues off you. Yeah. I'm just like, there's always the first thought in my head before I even get into it, before I start thinking like, you're not good for the job, before all my voices start coming in, I'm always just like, why would they listen to me? And then how do you battle that?
Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes I don't think that they did listen to me. Yeah. And, fair enough. Yeah. I'm just an external person coming in to help you with a thing. But at the end of the day, like I would always go in and say, I know how this looks, but actually I'm just here to support you. I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm here to support you through the process. I'm helping you to navigate. Yeah. Whether you take my advice or not is up to you. Yeah. But here are the rules, because HR is all about processes and rules. Yep. Here are the rules. This is what you have to stay within. Here's my level of support. Yep. Now you decide how much of this you're going to do, right? For sure. Yeah. Because if you mess these rules up, you're going down.
Yeah, right. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I see. You're just the support, and you give them what they want, and if they think they're too cool for you, oh well.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's right. They pay the price. Yeah. Not me. They pay the price. I've done my job.
And because when you are dealing with these people, like that's when you talked about it before, that's livelihoods on the line. Say things like they're not towing the line properly. That happens. How do you then make sure that you're not carrying that on? Because I know there's a couple of conversations I've had where like people unload some heavy stuff, or like the situation that you're talking about is actually quite dire. You're like, oh my gosh, how do you turn off like when you leave the office?
Yeah, to be honest, I struggled. Yeah. I struggled. There were some real confronting situations that I had to be exposed to. Yeah, which sometimes I'd have to walk away from the office and cry like. Yeah. And it's just secondhand sadness for somebody else. But, I always knew within myself that there's not much that I can do. I can only do this part. I'm this part of that person's world.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm not even significant to them. Right. But and I should really see it the opposite way too. Yeah. Sometimes I truly didn't switch off. Sometimes I really held on to that and I thought about it for a long time. But just like everything, things drift away. Right. You just accidentally let things go. Yep. yeah, I don't think I really had a coping mechanism.
Right.
But I would go to my mentors at work.
Awesome.
And I would say, hey, this has happened and I'm feeling really yuck.
Yeah.
And they would go, okay, well, it's got nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
You actually can't control this. You're going to have to let it go.
Yeah.
Or step out of the piece of work if it's too much.
Yep.
Which I did a couple of times.
Yeah.
Yeah, just because I felt, you feel sadness for other people.
Yeah.
It sucks.
Yeah. Well, it's really nice to have that honest conversation with yourself as well, to know that some things are beyond your capabilities at that time. And it's like at that time. I think this is where people find it hard to make that distinction, where they're like, oh no, I can't do this. I suck at that job. But actually, it's just like this particular job in this time you are not ready for. Yeah. Which is something we should be okay with saying. I mean, I'm horrible at saying that, because I just be like, oh, what a failure. And it's like the first thing that comes into my head, and I'm like, you suck.
Yeah. I do the same thing. I do the same thing.
And then in terms of work now, so have you transitioned out of that into something you're a bit more, because you said HR wasn't quite for you, so what did you find that was a bit more your like cup of tea?
Well, I kind of went hoppity hop around, but I ended up in education, so not a teacher or anything, so I work at the Ministry of Education.
Awesome.
I found myself in a different team that I'm in now, that I'm not in at the moment.
Right.
And it was for early learning. So
okay.
What I was doing was helping to get out or tender programs for Māori and Pacific children who weren't participating in early learning education.
Right.
That happens for heaps of reasons. Sometimes it comes down to money.
Yep.
And it comes down to parental involvement, and it comes down to other things like, big Pacific families have lots of babysitters. Yep. So, okay, the kids are going to go there.
Yeah.
So they don't put them into an education setting. So what I was trying to do is to ensure that there were more programs available for families to put their kids in, so that they get that pre-school education.
Yeah.
So that's where I ended up, and I was there for probably about 18 months. And now I'm actually in the Māori curriculum team.
Awesome.
And we are redeveloping the curriculum for Māori medium.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
All right, can we just go back to that first one, right?
Okay.
So a lot of my work at the moment is working with statistics, talking about parental education and children. Mm-hmm. And I've just realised, okay, as you were saying that, I didn't even think about the rates of people who are going into early childhood, especially from Pacific families. Because we look at a thing called a before school check, which is like a health check that people get when they're about 3 or 4 years old.
Yeah.
And we were like, oh no, the Pacific rates are really, really low. But a lot of this must be happening in early childhood centres, but they're not even going to early childhood centres. Yeah. Why are you telling me about my job during this interview?
Accident.
But those, like these are all the small things, and this is the difficult part when we talk about equity versus equality.
Yeah.
We can have all these programs available, but if we don't have the drivers for people to be able to get there, like transport, some people don't have that. Some people don't have the money to actually put someone or enroll them into these sorts of things. And then when they're like, oh yeah, but these are available if someone just got up off there, and I'm like, pick them up by the bootstraps, essentially. That doesn't work for everyone because of these other factors that no one really thinks about. And I'm just like, because how many conversations have you had with people where you're like, this is what I do, and they're like, why are you even needed?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Like, how do you respond? Because I got to a point where I was just like, hey, like I don't want to talk to you. You're just not worth my time.
Yeah, I'm thinking of it like, like, well, it's important. That's why I'm doing it.
Yeah.
So shut up.
Yeah.
So when I was in that space, it was really important to me, being Māori Pacific myself, really important to me that kids were going to doing some form of education. It didn't have to be heaps. You didn't have to go to a play centre. You didn't have to go to a play school, whatever. But it was important that kids had the access.
Yeah.
And access was what was the most difficult part.
Yep.
Now, when I found out that that there was less opportunity for Pacific, I was like outraged. I was like, no, what are you talking about? There's so many of them. Yeah. There's so many of them in these dense areas. Mm-hmm. Why are we not reaching them? What's going on? Yeah. And the determination that I came up with was that people were afraid.
Yep.
Where I work was afraid.
Right.
And they didn't necessarily have the relationships.
Right.
Didn't know how to engage. Didn't know how to get into the community and go, hey, this is everything that's available to you. anybody interested, or going, okay, this isn't working, how do we work with you so that we can make it more of an accepting, available, accessible service for you and your families and kids. We have one team specifically that does all of the community engagement with Pacific, and they're excellent, but they're this big.
Yeah.
So I know that from experience at least, that, Pacific families move around to do seasonal work. That's where the money is.
Yeah.
And when they move around, either they send the parent or the whole family goes and they find temporary housing, or they go stay with a family which has already got heaps of people living in there. And then there's risk of sickness, and then there's risk of this and risk of that, and then there's no money, and then they can't travel, so the kids don't get to go to they don't get to go to learn. Yeah. So I was trying really hard for ages to find opportunities and put money into small communities so that we can make it available, but it just almost fell on deaf ears.
Yeah. I think the difficulty with that, and especially like when you highlight anything that's quite wrong, like a little bit wrong with the system and how it's all going, the difficulty in actually getting more people involved with like actually exploring the issue highlights the issue more, which is what a lot of people don't want to bring to the forefront. But it's like, actually, you need to confront the problems first so that we can come up with like acceptable solutions. And then in the long term, like we think long term here, because everyone's like, oh, in the short term, like it's going to be a debacle. Yeah. But like, what? No, a generation from now, we'll have this close to sorted.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. I'm glad that you started that, and that like, but as you said, we're severely understaffed and people who want to do this sort of work, and it just comes down to a bunch of just really passionate people. So you look at them, they're the most overworked, underpaid and just like stressed people ever, but they love their job. And then you find there are other people potted around the place who are like me, but it's just them. It's just them amongst this massive sea of other people, but it's just you working on this massive piece. But people see this big. They're like, Pacific's like this big. But actually they're the worst participation rates in early learning, worse than Māori. And we haven't shifted that in like the 4 years that I've been in education. Come on. Put more money into it. Exactly, and we need to stop blaming the people.
That's right. And can we stop, also, I know I just been like this, but we've got to stop being deficit focused. We've got to stop being deficit focused. Actually, all of those that are in there are thriving. And actually, even though the statistics here say this many of them are going into, early learning, actually the rest of the population of children who are not going into early learning are doing something else that is even more valuable. They're learning stuff that we don't know about, but because it's not a education service, we just think that a deficit.
100%. And like a lot of the stuff where like in terms of like maybe, even ability to be spiritually connected to something or like culturally aware of their own stuff, and they just like know so much, and they could be experts in their own thing, but like because that's not something that gets you credits, or that's not something that is recognized in whatever system we have in education, it's like, oh well, they're failing. What are we failing at? You need to ask these sorts of questions.
There's an assumption that we don't know anything. We're just doing nothing. We're sitting around like this. But we're not.
No, for sure. And then just thinking about now, so you've moved out of that space. So that must have been, you've been in 2 areas so far that you've talked about that are absolutely just soul bearing, and just like you have to give a lot of yourself. And then where are you now?
So I am
still at MOE.
Still at MOE. Still in the curriculum space. I've been there for about 2 years. It's hard slog. Anything to do with anything to do with minority groups is hard. But the people around me, including myself, are there for their people. We're trying to do, my drive in life is to improve the environment in which children like me learn in education. Because if I look back at and I always use this, if I look back at my education experience, it was shit. I hated school. I liked parts of it. I have teachers that I can think off the top of my head and be like, hey, this lady was the bomb. The rest of it, awful. I hated it. I wanted to get out of school as soon as possible. University, even university, I didn't really enjoy it.
Yeah.
I didn't have a great experience. So my tainted education experience is what drives me working in education, which I accidentally stumbled into. I didn't even try to get into this space, but here I am. I look at it and I think, well, that's what my experience was like. So I want to change that, because if other kids are going through that, that sucks.
Yeah.
That sucks, because I could have been a either or kid. I could have been a where I am now, and I deem myself as relatively successful. But if I could have gone the other way, I could have totally been like black sheep. Nah, I don't want to do this. This sucks, which lots of kids do.
100%. It's like it's the true definition of colonization, which I've always thought about as just like if people bestow it on you that you were some sort of way, that's racism, because they're already judging you based on like some of your physical characteristics. But to the point where you start to believe it because other people already believe it in you, that's colonization, because you keep people down because you've given them the belief that they can't amount to anything. I'm just like, gosh, and this is going to go on for like decades, or it's going to go on for generations if we can't break the cycle and like have these sorts of things. So it's a really important work that you're doing. And just thinking about, so 2 years is a very short amount of time, but then thinking about long-term things or things that you think would be beneficial for students. It might not be stuff that you're doing at work, but like things that you think helped you or would help. What types of things do you think like you could start to implement or would be more aware of, or want people to be more aware of?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard enough. It's hard enough for us being brown kids.
Yes.
Even if we come from a really good family, a really good background, a really good upbringing, the fact that we're still a brown kid affects our future already. For sure. So I think in terms of what people should be aware of is that we're already going through it. Whether we make it look, we're really good at pretending.
100%.
We're really good at pretending like everything's, roses and flower petals and all of that kind of stuff, because sometimes it is, but really it's porridge. It's porridge and it's cup of teas and it's bread and butter. Yeah. It's bread and butter and milk. And although that sounds like luxury, it's not. And we're living it rough. And even though all of these good things might be appearing in front of us, like sports and all of that kind of stuff, just be a little bit more gentle with us. Yeah. Be gentle with us and offer us the same opportunities as everybody else. I think people think that they do that. Yeah. But the truth is we don't.
Yeah. No, you're so right. You're so right. There's just a lot of people who'd be like, oh. But then you do, like I said, you do get those few, like the teachers that you can name off the top of your head who really, like they live this. This is what they're all about, is just seeing everyone thrive, but they have that little bit extra that they know they have to give for, the people who do need that little bit of extra. Nice. And then so now we're going to go into a few other things, and I think so like that's your work side, that's all that sort of stuff, and you growing. Part of you growing is being able to look after yourself, and just like some of the posts you do, and then like if I was to look at this maybe when I was less, I don't know, maybe when I was just less judgmental, I don't know. Wait, am I judgmental? No, I love combat sport and all that sort of stuff, but I've never thought of it as like meditation. Right. But then I was like, wait, no, you do the exact same thing. You smash people on a rugby field. You do a lot of physical work and super hard work when you're stressed and all that sort of stuff. And it's a way of being able to deal with emotion. Now, you got into something that I would never still do, I don't think. But like, how did that all come across? And like, what was it that drew you into, getting into boxing?
Well, I have always loved boxing, ever since I was younger. But I just never knew where to go. Yeah. I really, really didn't. And also, as you're growing up and you're trying to get into your professional life and all of that kind of stuff, money is a factor. Yeah. So if I can't afford it, I can't do it. Yeah. So I've been in boxing now maybe, I'm going to say I'm moving into my third year. Yeah. And at first it was just to get into some fitness. Yeah. So I've also, my auntie, who is like one of the coolest Wonder Woman lady ever, she used to hard out box. Oh, okay. And she does Muay Thai. She doesn't really at the moment because she's injured. Right. But she really inspired me actually to get into combat sports. I've always seen her as like this really amazing wahine toa anyways. And she was the rugby player, she was the netball player, she was the basketball player, all of these things she still does at 45 and keeps breaking herself. But yeah, so when she started working at a boxing gym, I used to go every now and then to enjoy a class with her. And she'd work us really hard, and I loved it. Was I good at it? No, I sucked. And it's taken me a good 2 years to look decent on the bag. Let's just say. So that's how I got into boxing. Also, there's an awesome community gym that I go to, which is over here in Kilburney. And I absolutely love it, and I love the environment.
That's cool.
So from the moment that I stepped into that gym, I knew that was going to be my new home. And I have since done two fights, 2 charity fights, and I would really like to do a whole lot more.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
So that's the Wellington Boxing Gym?
Yes.
And so now fighting, right? So the training side of things, actually, firstly, so say you hadn't had that experience with your auntie and like being able to go to those classes, would it still be something, like, do you think you would have found yourself still at this gym?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah. It's something that you're drawn to.
Yeah.
And then how do you, like, when you're new at it, I can't think of any skill that I've been new at, but I remember when I had to go to, I went off Tonga to one of the classes, and I just felt like an idiot. And I was like, what the heck is this? And like, I'm so used to being really good at things that like it took me all the way back to like, I was thinking so hard about what my body was doing when I was doing it. And then I had different types of DOMs I've never had before. And I was just like, how are you meant to get good at this? Like where in your mind do you go when you realize you're doing a skill that you're not good at it, and you're going to get better? Like, how do you remind yourself that it is going to be the part of the process?
Okay, so when I started like you, I thought, man, I suck at this. And I probably, a lot like you too, am like, well, I'm either going to be really awesome at this, or I'm going to really be really, really shit, and I give up. I've lost your question now.
So just like how do you, no, you're doing good, so you're just reminding yourself that you can either be good or you're going to be really, really shite.
Okay, right.
But then keeping yourself like on.
Well, the thing is, it's fun.
Yeah, right.
The thing is, it's really fun.
Yeah.
So, you know, I've got a stressful job and a generally stressful life, let's say, and I love being able to go in there and just hit something.
Yeah,
hit something without making it cry.
Yeah. And
also hitting something without getting in trouble.
Yeah.
And that's really cool. But also the environment of the gym, at least from my perspective, is really awesome.
Yeah.
Like, it's everybody there is super supportive. Doesn't matter what level you're at. Doesn't matter if you're unco. Doesn't matter if you're excellent.
Yeah.
There's such a combination of people in that gym
Yeah.
that you just sort of drift into it and it's easy.
Yeah.
But I had a drive and I knew that I wanted to be good at it.
Yeah.
Might be like you in CrossFit. You know, you got to be good at the movements in order to be stronger, right?
Yeah, you're right.
You got to get your technique right before you start adding weight to the bar.
Yeah.
So same with me in terms of boxing. I thought that I was going to be awesome. I went in there and I was humbled, and like you had the worst DOMs for ages. And those DOMs never really went away. But I just kept working at it.
Yeah.
You know, but I love it because it's fun.
Yeah. And where does someone go in their mind when they have to fight?
Oh, you go into lots of places.
Yeah.
So I reckon that there are levels to it. So in my first camp, I was really quite literally shitting myself when I went in to do my first set of sparring. I thought I was going to be okay, but I couldn't sleep the night before.
Yeah.
I got there, I was like jacked up because I wasn't sure how this was going to go. The worst thing that could happen is that you get in there and you get knocked out, right?
Yeah, right.
And I was up against a girl of the same stature who is going to be fighting again very soon. Lovely, beautiful girl.
Yeah.
And she was my friend, you know, like you walking into a ring situation with pads on to fight your friend.
Yeah.
So you have to get through a barrier. The first barrier is recognizing that you're about to fight somebody that you know.
Yeah.
And you might hurt them and they might hurt you and you're just going to have to be okay with it.
Right.
And don't cry.
Yeah.
You know, and lots of people cry before and after.
Yeah.
When you're in there, all you can think about is don't get hurt.
Yeah.
You try to think rationally about, I could throw this and I could do that and this, that and whatever, but when you're new to it, you don't even know what you're up to.
Yeah.
You look like a tit.
Yeah.
Like you literally are in there. You look like a tit. The coaches are giving you, opportunities. They're talking you through what it is you can and cannot do or should be thinking about doing. But your brain is not moving in sync with your body.
For sure.
And it stays like that until you've done it maybe like 10, 12 times.
Yeah.
And even then, you're still slow
Yeah.
off the bat. And you get past you eventually get past the fact that you're fighting somebody.
Yep.
You eventually get past the fact that you're just getting punched up.
Yep.
Sometimes I went in there and I was getting a hiding. And then other times I was giving a hiding.
Yeah.
I don't know if either of those feel good.
Yeah.
To be fair, I didn't like the fact that I was smashing somebody up.
Yeah.
And I didn't like the fact that I was getting smashed up. But a big lesson that I picked out, which took me to the end of the second camp that I had done, was that I started to recognise who I was as a person.
Yeah.
And me personally, my general demeanour is actually really gentle.
Yeah.
I'm very soft and gentle with my friends. And the fact that I have to go into the ring every time to fight one of my friends who you get closer with because you're camping with them, you're training with them every day.
Yeah. Just
about every day. You're spending your weekends with them.
Yeah.
Traveling, all of this sort of stuff. I realised that, man, maybe I'm not cut out for this.
Right.
Maybe hurting somebody isn't the right way. Maybe I shouldn't be doing this. But it's because I know that I'm a soft person.
Right.
In general sense. But I know that there's another side of this beast that is actually really scary.
Yeah.
But I lock her up all the time.
Right.
So this gentle person has become bigger than the yucky person that I locked up after I left college.
Oh, yeah.
So it's funny how I realised that, and I had to find a way of temporarily unlocking this dark person within me. Yeah. It sounds really sad and all of that kind of stuff, but it's not.
Yeah.
And that was how I was able to push through into my second fight, because my first fight I was timid. Yeah. Whether people know it or not, I was really, really scared.
Yeah, I think it's a weird, like, sort of... I mean, I listened to Mike Tyson talk about it and all that sort of stuff, and he can't remember fighting. Like, there's parts of different fights, and he's like, honestly, I blacked out. Yeah. Because he probably literally shifted from who he was to that demon that he let out to fight. Yeah. And he caged it back up again. Well, like, he didn't obviously cage it too well, but, like, for you to be able to cage it and to, like, be who you are in the ring and then to come out as well, like, that's a skill. That's... Because, like, I couldn't think of anything worse than to, like, smash someone. Yeah. Like, in rugby, I'll tackle anyone. I'm like, that's my favourite thing to do. Like, run at me, I'll hurt you. But then as soon as we get off, I'm just like, hey, mate, like, I'm talking to the same person. And I'm like, love your work, all that sort of stuff. So now talking about the, like, meditative aspect of it, which I found really, really interesting. And you were quite open about it. But, like, you are smashing stuff. You are super aggressive. But then in that you find peace. Yeah. Well, describe that whole process. Yeah, so a big trigger for that in my post. So I lost my dad recently, a couple of years ago, not even a couple of years ago, over a year ago, I lost him. And that's what threw me into, okay, well, I need to do more things for me in my life. Yeah. And that's when I signed up for 2 camps and I went for it. I signed up for 2 camps and a triathlon, but the triathlon didn't happen because of COVID. Oh, right. I thought something happened. My legs or something. No, that's still on the cards. I'm still going to do it. Cool. So the training aspect of fighting, and even going into the fighting side of it, I had to find caged Tiana. Yeah. But also I needed to find a way to deal with my pain, because I was really... I think I'm a this or that person. If I'm not dealing with my pain, I could go down a really bad way. Right. Kind of like, this is like a reflective thing, like when I was at school. I could have been a nothing, or I could become a something. Yeah. And I was teetering on you're either going to go this way and it's going to be a really bad life for you come the next few years, or you find something to channel your energy towards and go for it. And that's when I made my decisions to do that. So in terms of a meditative state, I quite literally
did meditation around boxing.
Right.
Like I would be at home and I would do that.
Yeah.
But also I found a lot of peace in being able to pummel things.
Yeah.
But in a controlled kind of way.
For sure.
Because it's a controlled violence space, I am letting my aggression out in a good way.
Yeah.
I'm not actually street fighting somebody because I'm having a bad day. But, and I don't know how to explain this, but the more that I trained, even though it got extreme, the more relaxed I felt about the things that were going on in my life personally.
Yeah.
You know, anybody who's lost a parent knows how hard that is.
Yeah.
And my dad is my best friend.
Yeah.
So I had to really work at dealing with that, and I really found that in the training that I did, in the environment that I was in. With the coaches played a huge role, whether they know this or not.
Yeah.
Played a huge role in pushing me to be better, and I made a decision. I made a decision that was going to be what's going to bring me peace.
Awesome.
And I'm really hard on rules, so I set my own rules, and then I followed my own rules, and that's when I continued to find peace.
Yeah.
And so now that I've had a taste of that, I don't want to stop.
Yeah.
I don't want to stop. I want to keep going. So if I can get more fights, I will. Yeah. And I'll keep on going. And now I just wish that he could have watched me.
Yeah, for sure.
Not that he would have cared. He would have been like, what are you doing that for?
Yeah.
You know, that kind of thing. So, yeah, you know, boxing is it's an isolated sport. Yeah. You're around people all the time, but it's actually very lonely. Yep. And I think before going into boxing, I thought that I was all right being alone. Yeah. But actually going through it, I realised that being alone is actually a really good space for me. Yeah. And I realised how introverted I really was going into boxing. Yep. And accepting the fact that it was just me and nobody else. Yeah. And even though I have a huge support network and people pushing me and friends being there for me and all of this sort of stuff, I knew that everything hinged on me being okay with myself. Yeah. And that's where part of that meditation came from. Yeah. Was self-acceptance. Yeah. Yeah.
It's so weird. Like, a lot of people think that because it's a solo sport, like, it's a weird extroversion of that introvert. So, like, I thought about it in CrossFit, a lot of the stuff I was doing by myself, and I love being by myself, but it's like to get to know myself, because at the end of the day, you then have to rely on yourself, and you can't hide. Yeah. So, like, when you go to show and express your art form or whatever it is you've been working on, it's just you. Yeah. So, like, all of those people that you thought were around you, and you're like, okay, cool. But then once you're in there, the only people see is you. And I'm just like, sheesh. So me accepting myself and me getting to know myself was actually to be able to come out here and be myself out for a bunch of people. It's really cool. Yeah. 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 Oh, that's so cool. But your first, like, your two fights, though, compared to sparring, what were the differences?
The differences, well, the first obvious difference is that there's heaps of people in the room. Yeah. And suddenly it's ridiculously loud. Yeah. So you get used to fighting in front of people because, you know, people are around training and all of that kind of stuff. But you're used to like 20 or 30 people being in the room. Suddenly there's 1,000 people in the room, and they're screaming, and you're trying to hear your coach, and there's lights on the thing, and you're in the middle of a room, and, you know, all of this sort of stuff. It's wild. Yeah. It's the weirdest experience ever, and you're walking out to a song that you picked. Yeah, yeah. And all of these people are like, you know, like waving their hands and screaming. So I actually prefer the sparring part. Yeah. But you suddenly you've worked your way to be there that night. And yeah, it's stressful. Yeah. It's super stressful. Yeah. You're in a room at the back trying to warm up, and all you can hear is all this noise. Yeah. And you're not in a comfortable setting. You're used to being in the gym, warming up and doing your thing and chit-chatting with people. Yeah. But this time you have to be... Yeah. The isolation, boom, it happens. Yeah. Suddenly you're in a bubble. Yeah. And everybody around you is focused on themselves because they're about to have a fight. Yeah. And you have to suddenly be focused on yourself because you're about to either be punched or you're going to be dishing punches. Yeah. And it's just you and your coach who's warming you up. Yeah. And they're not even really hyping you up. They probably are, but you're not hearing it. Yeah. And you're suddenly just, it's just you. Yeah. And you you're not paying attention to anybody else. And then you come out of it and it's like a huge emotional dump.
Yeah.
Some people cry.
Yeah.
Some people don't. Some people just are like wickedly happy and crazy. And I was like in a trance when I got off. I mean, I lost my first fight. Yeah. So the first thing I was, I lost, I suck. But then also, all these people are here and they're watching me and they're supporting me and it doesn't matter. And my coaches are proud of me and I did it.
Yeah.
I did. I've been working for like 3 whole months. Yeah. And here I am. Yeah. And I done it. One piece of advice that my coach gave me before going in, he goes, when you're on the night and you're there, just even if you're waiting for ages, because I was one of the last fights of the night, right, which was the worst, just enjoy every part of it. Yeah. Like soak everything in. Doesn't matter what's going on over here and over there and over there. You know, other people are dealing with their own emotions, so don't get trapped into their emotions, but just soak up the whole experience. Yeah. When you're about to walk out slowly. Yep. And really look around and really enjoy that, because it's done. Yeah. Like that. It's over. Yeah. You're in the ring for 6 minutes to fight. Yeah. There's a minute between each of those 3 minute slots. 2 minute slots. Yeah. Yeah. It's over before you know it. Yeah. So enjoy it, because it's done. I think that's probably like advice for life, right? Yeah, yeah. Because like, I mean, if we think about the year that just went, like that was just over before you knew it, and like there's a lot of times we don't take things in, and it's weird because you're about to go into one of the most like physically demanding and like mentally taxing areas, but like before it, if you're present and you're actually there, like it's a weird thing where because you're going into a place where someone's going to try to beat you up, all the voices that would tell you suck also don't want to get beaten up. Yeah. So they'll be like, all right, we need to work together. Yeah. So the good angel and the bad angel all come together to be like, we don't want to get hit here. Yeah. So that's a really cool place to be. Man, it's so cool. And now I just had something else. We've gone long, but I don't really care. Yeah. With the fighting, right? So I remember I used to watch UFC and just love it. And I would particularly love... I loved when Ronda Rousey became a thing, because it was like this new wave of like feminine, but then also in combat sport. And people were like, oh, she shouldn't do that. She's a woman, blah, 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 blah. That doesn't even exist anymore. Do you feel it, or is it still a thing? I don't think it exists. I think if anything, it's more encouraged. Yeah. You know, female empowerment is a real big thing right now. I've noticed that a humongous wave of it has happened within the last few years. Yeah. Which it should have always been a thing. Absolutely. But you know, but I know that at least I've seen that women in combat sports has become a real thing. Yeah. It's a huge, interesting wave that's happening, and I think it's great. Yeah. I think it's great. I mean, I look at my auntie as being a huge inspiration to me. Yeah. Being that woman in my life. I mean, my mum's a fighter, she in her own kind of way. Yep. Everybody's a fighter in their own kind of way. But being able to see it physically manifest in front of me and being like, actually, I can do that. Yeah. And then going in and doing it. And now I'm the physical manifestation of that for somebody else. Heck yeah. So I know that my friends around me have seen me do this and they're like, shit, well, I can do it. Yeah. And they're females. Yeah. And they want to give it a crack. Yep. And the amount of people that I have been able to inspire somehow, even though I look at it and I go, really, why? Yeah. It's wicked. Yeah. It's wicked. I think anybody can be strong in whatever they do. Yeah. It doesn't have to be combat sport. Yeah, for sure. Not everybody, you know, sometimes you're just a kitten. Yeah. But even kittens have claws. 100%. Yeah. Well, I always say to people, and like I say it about everyone, but I mean it in like a way where it's not like, I think a lot of people take it as me saying like, wow, they're really physical or like something, but I call a lot of people, like if I really enjoy what people are doing and if they're just tenacious in their approach to everything, I call them a bad motherfucker. Yeah. Like, it doesn't matter what they're doing, if they're like a musician, all that sort of stuff. If I say someone's a bad motherfucker, that's because they just give everything into that and they fight as strong as they can for whatever it is that they're doing. And I'm like, if you have that mentality, that's what you are. And I don't, like you said, everyone's got their own fight. And I'm like, that's such a cool way of thinking about it, because we all do. And then it's just how people deal with that it's like, that's when you've
become a bad motherfucker.
Yeah. I mean, it's gangster.
Yeah.
Everybody has a bad motherfucker in themselves.
Yeah.
And whatever it is. Like, for me, I feel like a bad motherfucker when I'm at boxing.
Yeah.
And if I'm around other people who I also think are bad motherfuckers, it makes me feel amazing.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a sucker for the energy.
Yeah.
So if I go in, and I've done this recently, I've gone into a class and I think, I'm just going to half play it today. It's alright, I'm tired. And then I get there and my coach is there, Ashes on the bag.
Yeah.
And then I see a couple of other fighters on the bag and I can hear them because we're loud fighters. Us, the screamers on the bag.
Oh yeah. Are you talking about the every hit? It's like,
yeah. So if I can hear that, I get caught in the energy, and then I'm like, right, well, I have to match it.
Yeah.
And I love that shit.
Yeah.
That's that stuff. I mean, CrossFit is another one.
Yeah.
You know, people are hyping somebody up, but lift or whatever it is, and then they want to go. Oh, excuse my language.
Oh, you're good.
They want to do it too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's incredible. It's electricity.
Yeah.
You know, so to be around that is really inspiring to me, and I know it's scary to other people, but when they get comfortable with it, that's it. But you just have to find what makes you feel the electricity. Really.
Yeah, and it's just that look in your eye when you can tell someone's honed in, and you're like, that's it, I want to channel that, and you just start all channeling, and you're like, that's crazy how that all happens. No, that's so cool. And then just last thing, also, like, I have a final question that I ask everyone, but before that, recently you did a post, and I was just like, it was an internal dialogues. Now, this is a really cool place to leave it in terms of the internal dialogue, because it's something, I mean, we talked about female empowerment, we talked about you being in a meditative state, finding peace, but now, like, because of that being enclosed with yourself a lot of the time, and you're with your thoughts a lot of the time, now sometimes the evil comes out to talk to you, and that evil has the same name, has the same everything that you do, but just doesn't think highly of you sometimes. So when you like made that post and had to look at it and then think about, you know, just how cool you are and all the different things you do, but then when it comes to like my appearance or stuff like that, like how are you dealing with that, and then what was it that just made you be like, shut up?
Well, I have never been a big fan of myself.
Yeah.
Even though I do this boxing and I'm a fan of myself. In terms of appearance, yes, no, I'm not friendly to myself. A lot of people aren't friendly to themselves, but I've always been an enemy. And it comes out in the way where I don't feel great in my clothes and all of that kind of stuff. But, you know, I've held myself back for many years and not doing things that I want to do, like go swimming, like wear dogs, like all of these sort of stuff. And I don't have a body positive image in my mind of myself. So when I posted that, you know, I was extremely insecure. I still am extremely insecure about my appearance. But what I am, and boxing has actually really helped me with this, is that there's bigger things in life. Yeah. You know, there are more important things that I could be focusing on that I really like should be. I can't fixate on my appearance all the time. Yep. Appearance is one part of me. It's not everything. Yeah. I've got a great personality, and I'm also super strong and super active, and people like me. Yeah. So why should I care about what I look like in a bikini? Sure, yeah. And also, if I deprive myself of things, and this is a big lesson that I learnt from losing Dad, I shouldn't be depriving myself of things that I love. Yeah. And life is too short, and if you don't do something now, you'll never do it. And get on with it. Write yourself your list and just get on. And one of those things on my list is just to wear togs more. Cool. And not care about whether or not somebody thinks I'm fat. Yeah. That's cool. That's really, really cool. I mean, it's something that I need to tell myself all the time. And because people will always remind you, they're like, well, but you look amazing, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I don't care what you think. I'm talking to myself here. That's right. Exactly. You're internally fighting with yourself all the time. And that caption was a representation of the split moment that I was like, I looked outside and I was like, wow, it's a beautiful day. I should really get out there. If I don't, I'm never going to get a tan. Yeah. And then me going, oh, but I don't want to wear togs because people might see me. And then I'm like, oh, shut up.
Yeah.
Get out there, otherwise you're just going to be pasty this
Yeah.
whole summer again for the third year in a row. Get over yourself.
That's awesome. That's really, really cool. And then the final thing that I ask everyone on this podcast is just, what is something that you do every day or close to every day that helps you feel like you have optimized the day?
Whoa, that's a really big question. Do you know what? The first thing that I thought about was brushing my teeth.
Okay.
And because you can't walk around with stink breath.
Oh, that's fair. Yeah, nice. Yeah, that's very, very fair. Yeah, I like, it's this weird thing, like, if I have to get up early, like, no matter how early it is, no matter what I have to do, even if I have to just, like, go take the bins out or something, if I am going to do something, I won't feel awake until my teeth are brushed. And, like, oh, yeah, there we go, I'm fresh. But then, like, because I just know, the one time I go out there and I haven't brushed my teeth, I'll walk into 3 people I know and they'll want to talk to me.
Yeah, that's it. You can't be walking around with stinky breath.
No, you can't. Oh, well, we're excited to see what happens this year, and if there's more fights, if you end up doing a triathlon, we'll be supporting you along the way. Thank you so much for this enlightening chat. I'm inspired. I don't know if I'm inspired to go beat some people up, but it's just inspired to, find that peace. And I remember some of my jiu-jitsu friends just saying, like, they submit the shit out of people, but they're the most zen people you ever meet.
Yeah.
And that's because they control their anger, and they're very slow to anger, and that chaos that they have, they now know how to put it into a ball. And I'm like, wow. And then I just heard you pretty much go through that whole thing. So I think finding myself and finding something that I could do to have that, like, I think I've got it pretty down, but no, I took a lot out of that, and I know a lot of people will. So thank you so much for your time.
Thanks.
I hope you enjoyed the experience. Yeah, I'm glad we got to the end of it, but it was awesome. It was a really fluid chat, and I really, really appreciate it. All the best.
Thank you.